everyone. Welcome to Relate to You, our podcast, Lula and I, where we just talk about different things to relate to you and you hopefully to relate to us. On today's episode, Lula and I are going to open up Pandora's box and share different stories from our childhoods and just some fun little tidbits. I wouldn't say they're necessarily embarrassing. So we are not putting this in the embarrassing story segment.
Yeah, I don't think it's a category of
You might cringe and might think, you should be embarrassed about that. Why'd you share? But honestly, these are just some of the stories I think that we've laughed about and shared to one another. And so to start us off, Lula, can you share a story regarding, maybe, to go light, something psychotic, that you did as a child?
Psychotic I did as a
something
child.
a little abnormal. Maybe just, had you continued in this path? Who knows the kind of person you'd be, but I don't know.
Wow. You know what? I think I was a rather
Normal.
no, I wouldn't say normal, but a lot of things me daban miedo.
Okay.
Entonces no hacía muchas cosas porque no. I've always been a curious child, pero siempre así de no, mejor no, mejor no.
Smart.
Pero I mean, the most psychotic thing I did is in 6th grade I got in a fight.
Okay.
I've shared this with you.
Oh, I think.
And okay, I don't know if I should give context, but 3rd grade I was bullied. Well, first and 2nd grade I was bullied heavily.
Okay.
Heavily in school. Then my mom changed. We moved to a different home, farther, and so my mom moved us schools. 3rd grade, I was bullied by the teacher, but I had fun with my classmates.
The teacher that hit you.
Yeah, it was a teacher that hit me.
We've talked about this our earlier episodes.
The 4th grade, I started hanging out with bullies, per se. Or, yeah, the people that were, the
wrong crowd.
The wrong crowd. And then that pattern continued until my 5th and 6th grade. So by the time I was in 6th grade, I still hung out with the wrong crowd. Very cool kids, though. Very, very, I mean, it was fun to be bad, I guess.
But you had pent up resentment.
I do, I guess, and it wasn't just pent up. It was just kind of like, oh, you're hanging out with the it girl, the girl that would beat up everyone. You also need to come up with something, you need to have that attitude too. So I remember this one time we were both in 6th grade, and this girl is trying to bully us, or I wouldn't say bully, pero nos está echando problema porque mi amiga, and it was always about a guy. It was always about a boy. Oh my gosh, so dramatic.
Pero robaste a Rodrigo.
Ajá. Estás viendo a José Luis. And so, no me acuerdo bien cómo pasó, pero la niña le estaba diciendo a mi amiga que te voy a golpear y groserías, I'm gonna do this and that porque tú eres esto y aquello, and we're in the restroom, and my friend is telling her, do not get close to me, y la otra, is going at it, and it had been a while already, like la muchacha la veía, la empujaba, le hacía cosas, todo eso, but my friend hasta eso se había aguantado ya. Y en ese ratito, we had PE, we all decided to go to the restroom, y ella nos alcanzó. She starts telling her, like, you're this, you're that, y te voy a hacer esto, y te espero después de la clase, y blah, 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 blah. And I'm just there looking at them like, oh my God. And I'm looking at my friend thinking, ¿por qué no le está golpeando? Like, any other time she would have, gone for it. And I keep hearing her, no te me acerques, no te me acerques, no te me acerques. Well, this girl made the mistake of getting close to her face. My friend grabbed her hair y se lo jaló así. And la otra, she starts screaming. And my friend, close fist, starts hitting her en la cara. And I'm just like, oh my God. And, obviously, this is when you need to come through for your friend.
Bully face, yeah.
So my friend looks at me and said, and she didn't say anything, but with her eyes, she told me,
Telepathically. She's like, hey, are you going to get in on this?
Yes. And I mean, it's one of those things where she's got my back. So I need to come through. We, long story short, we ended up breaking a sink with her head. And I don't feel proud about it. She was okay.
Pre-save Lula.
Yes, this is pre-save, pre-Jesus Lula. I was 11? And I don't have it in me to fight like that. It was like, because she was my friend and because she looked at me like, you need to get on this, I was like, okay, and I did what I could. I give credit to my friend. My friend takes a lot of the credit. But yes, we ended up breaking the sink with her head. And so that was very psychotic for me because for two reasons. One, I had never seen someone's blood. And two, I had never heard someone's skull hit the sink, and it was traumatizing. But at the same time, it was kind of like she had it coming, like.
Is that why you twitch?
¿Qué es? If we're being honest, la más ¿cómo se dice?
Twitchy?
La más twitchy aquí eres tú.
It's true.
I make a sound and you're like, I touched you that one time? Dude, you react. Anyway, and so, but who knows, maybe. And so we got in trouble, of course. My friend got expelled. I didn't, because at that time ya era parte de la escolta. I've shared this before. I was already part of the marching band.
Right.
La escolta. And so I had to be a straight A student almost, and I had to be I was the one holding the flag. So yo era, if I can use this term to describe myself, yo era la mejor.
Oh.
Yo era la mejor. And so se iba a ver mal que la niña de la bandera esté golpeando a otra niña. Entonces what they did is they sort of, put it under the rug in a way for me. My friend got expelled. I didn't, porque my professor de la escolta came through for me. He's like, no, she's not like that. And I wasn't really. But wrong crowd. And so they just put a mark on my record or something like that. Pero my coach or whatever, he did tell me, you need to stop hanging out with those girls porque
they're gonna get you in trouble.
They're gonna get you in trouble y no vas a durar en la escolta. Tú tienes que ser la mejor, tú tienes que ser el ejemplo, tú tienes que ser esto. Eres la banderada, o sea, la de la bandera. Y yo, okay. Did I stop hanging out with them? No, not really. But after that, I don't remember getting into that much trouble.
Yeah.
But that was the most psychotic thing I did when I was a child. What about you?
Con la muchacha?
Oh, I think she got stitches. And she
no remorse, no empathy. Like, no, yeah, she had to get stitches. No, like, I think she got stitches.
Wait.
Are you sure this is like a pre-psychotic story?
This is pre-saved, Lula.
Okay.
No, I think she got stitches porque she showed up with, like, she never stopped going,
okay. She wasn't in the hospital.
She wasn't,
Okay.
Yeah, and so, like, no, o sea, tampoco, mira, and I'm not saying this to justify myself, but I do think the sinks were faulty. The sinks were not good sinks.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
The sinks weren't, like...
It didn't take much.
It didn't take much. And so, I'm pretty sure que el sink ya estaba, porque te digo, yo me acuerdo y we didn't use a lot of force. At least yo no. Yo no me acuerdo ever having to, like, really push her down. Sí escuchamos el hit.
Yeah.
Pero cuando se rompió el sink, it was like, whoa.
Like, oh, okay.
How? And so, y ahí paramos. both her and I looked at each other like we messed up. Like, this isn't right. And so ahí paramos. Y sí le salió sangre y todo, pero I mean, no la llevaron al hospital. At least I don't remember.
It was just a regular fight.
So it was just a regular fight. And y ya, you know. But obviously, God humbled me in many ways after that. We came to the U.S. and I got bullied for being a beaner. And that really humbled me. Was I fighting people? No. Dude, did I want to fight the black girl that told me go back to your country? No. Trust me. Okay, yes. Trust me. I want to go back to my country. I don't like this place, you know? So, yeah, God turned it around later on.
All right.
And I found grace, guys. I got bullied later on.
Yeah, ahora she's normal.
Now I'm saved. I'm normal. I don't twitch as much. And, you know, just don't find me on the streets, though.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. Okay. So the most psychotic thing I did, I've mentioned a lot of my childhood stories on this channel. And if you pay attention, I had a little bit of, not only was I confident in the love area, but when it came to just childhood stuff, I loved attention. I loved, you know, doing something that could somehow just get attention. I don't know. Me hacía un drama, me hacía una novela.
Tenías una gran imaginación.
I had a creative imagination. And, you know, I mentioned this in one episode where I made this whole lie up how I got jumped. Go find the episode. You know, but, you know, I talk about how I made friends. You know, I knew my capacity as far as physically what I could do with harm. And I knew it wasn't a lot. I was very small, very skinny. And so I knew the only strength I have is my mind. And so, you know, early on, I would...
And she really worked that.
I would manipulate, you know, little girls. And I would say, you know, okay, let's not talk to, you know, whatever her name is, Lorena or whatever. And let's not be friends with her. And Lorena would start crying. And then I'd be like, why are you crying, Lorena? And she'd be like, because no one wants to be my friend. Don't worry, I'll be your friend. And then I tell everybody, no, we're friends with Lorena now, you know? And so I did things like that. But I think one of the things that to this day is like, you know, and I guess, yeah, it's kind of cringe, you know, but I know it's kind of psychotic because I didn't think of the consequences of what I was going to say. You know, first and foremost, I never thought of the consequences of me lying about getting jumped. Let's start there. But, you know, in this situation, it was towards an adult. So there was this teacher who shall remain nameless. I'm sure she's a wonderful lady and she's living her life. And let's call her Mrs. Robinson, just for sake of the story. So Mrs. Robinson, to this day, as an adult, I can say she didn't like me. She was generally a strict and like firm and relatively yelly kind of teacher. So none of us really liked her. But to me specifically, she didn't like me.
Oh, okay. So in general, she didn't like children.
I don't think so. You know, very
but
few
contigo,
times.
she had it out.
Yeah, and I think what it was Halloween and Dia de los Muertos, because around that season I remember they had the rosca, and I grew up in a school that like part of the school would teach you how to speak Spanish. Like it was a straight up Mexican American school, you know, like they were really big on Mexican heritage and all of that. And so they had all of like el pan dulce, la rosca, comida para el Día del Muerto y todo. And I remember that like as everybody's going to get their piece, you know, she's like, go get your, you know, your pan, you know, or whatever. And I was like, no. And she was like, why? And I was like, no, I don't believe in that. And she's like, what do you mean you don't believe in that? And I'm like, no, we don't celebrate the Day of the Dead. This Christian little girl. And she was just like, it's just bread, it's just food. And I remember telling her, pero no, esos se ofrecen a los muertos, a los demonios. And she was like, demonios, no se ofrecen a los demonios, no, estos es en memoria de las personas que han muerto, you know, es una, like, it's a good tradition, it's out of respect, you know. And so I was like, no, well, I can't eat it. And she was just kind of like, okay. And then the second time was that we were doing a Halloween activity, And all the kids got witches and warlocks and jack-o'-lanterns to draw, or rather to color. And I told her, I don't celebrate Halloween. I can't color this. Can I do something else? And she was just like, what are you going to do? I'm like, can I just do another activity? Just I'll draw. I'll still like color. I can't do a witch. And she was like, fine. And I went and I painted a rainbow and I put glittery todo, you know, and I did my own, the promise of the Lord, you know. Entonces, I think she just didn't like me, you know. And so then, you know, on one occasion, I don't know what I did. This part is fuzzy to me. I just know that I got
selective
trouble.
memory.
I have selective memory. I forget what I did, but the point is that she got mad at us. And she, I want to say, gave us detention, or she kept us in for recess or something along those lines. Like, we just got in trouble. And I was so mad that she had, like, kept us in, you know, in class, you know, and I was so angry, like, just how she yelled at us. And, like, I'm like, I hate this teacher. I hate her. Like, she just doesn't like me. And it was a few of us, a few of me and my friends. And I went home and I told my mom, I can't believe Miss Robinson. I can't believe she did what she did today, you know. And my mom was like, what did she do? This was second grade. And and I said, Mrs. Robinson locked us up in the room today. And my mom was like, what do you mean? And she's like, all day with the lights off. She locked us up in the room and she didn't let us go out to recess. She didn't let us go out to lunch. I couldn't eat anything. I was starving, Mom. Like, I thought I was going to faint. Like, I don't know why she didn't let us eat lunch, because, you know, I always eat lunch and I never missed lunch. And she wouldn't even let me get water, Mom. Like, she just kept us in there. And she told us because we were bad kids and that she was going to do this again. And I don't know, Mom, but, like, she just doesn't like me. Like, why would she lock us up in the room? And it wasn't even like our classroom. It was like this other place. Like, she locked us in just with like the lights off, and like we couldn't eat anything. And I'm scared of Mrs. Robinson. Like, I can't believe her. Like, she's so mean. Again, my mother, because she was bullied, really literally bullied in middle school. And because of her experience that her parents never would believe her. Her mindset was always, when my kids tell me that they're in danger and something's going on, I'm going to believe them. 100%. Now, child 1 and child 2 and child 3, whenever they told my mom something, was the truth. So if that pattern of, you know, when my sisters would tell her, hey, someone is bullying me, she always verified it and it was true. Pattern should show that your 4th daughter should tell you the truth, right? Not this one. And so then my mom, obviously, she's enraged. And again, this part's fussy, but she tells me that she discussed all of this with my dad and with my sisters and my brother-in-laws, because I'm the youngest. My sisters were already married. And they were like, Mom, like, this is abuse. This is something that we can't stand for. Like, how is this educator locking up these kids, not letting them go out? You know, God knows how long this has been going on and what else she's doing. You know, they're making up the worst, you know, novela. And my dad and my dad who was disabled and used a walker to walk with my brother-in-law, went up to Mrs. Robinson and her classroom with me there as well. And they let her have it. They were yelling. They were just angry. How could you do this?
Upset,
What's wrong with you? My daughter told me this and this and this, that you did this and this and this. And Mrs. Robinson is sitting there getting all of this heat, getting all of this aggression from my dad and my brother-in-law. And then she said, I'm sorry, one moment. Kez, did I lock you in a classroom with the lights off and not let you go out for lunch yesterday? And I said, no. And she was like, and for the record, she said all this in Spanish. She was like, gracias. Como ya pueden ver, su hija está mintiendo. Yo nunca la encerré en el salón sola Yo la dejé salir. Ella comió muy bien como todo el resto de mi clase, you know, and so she was obviously upset. And again,
Of course, yeah.
my brain has blocked out what, like, after that, what the treatment was with her. I don't remember. I don't know if she continued mistreating me. I think, like, all that I remember from that was that, oh my God, my dad says, like, la vergüenza que sentí. My brother-in-law is like, I was speechless. Like, in my head, is like, what am I supposed to do? She's freaking standing right there. And she's like, no, that never happened. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like,
Oh my gosh.
and I think that was psychotic.
Of
I think
course.
to me was like, first of all, where's my mind that obviously I'm creating this whole thing that never happened, and I'm adding details and I'm making this whole scenario. But I had to have delivered such a believable story for my mom to have believed it and go as far as having my dad confront, like, my dad, God bless his soul, may he rest in peace, you know, he did what he could to defend me and protect me in his way, only for him to just look at me like, oh my God, like, you're lying, you know. And so I think that was probably the most psychotic thing.
No, for me, the psychotic part, I don't think it's you so much lying to your family, is that once you're there, you're like, nope, that didn't
Well, thank God, because I'm not going to talk about that, but there were times where, like, I was caught in a lie and I would be like, no, yeah, you did, like, yeah, you did. So, like, yeah, it had happened, like, where there were times where I would, like, if it was a peer, I would lie and be like, no, yeah, you hit me. But I think because it was an adult and I was obviously intimidated by her, I wasn't going to lie to her face. And so as I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, let her have it. Yeah, tell her this and tell her that. And then she comes and she directs me. I was like, no. No, you didn't do that. No, señora Robinson, usted nunca nos encerró en el salón. Estaba mintiendo.
Dude, pero at that point, were you looking at your dad and your...
No, I was looking at her.
You were looking at her?
I was looking at her the whole time. I was just
that
kind of
would
like...
have been psychotic.
And she wasn't
you looking at your dad
me.
like, no, she never did that.
No, she was looking at them the whole time. She wasn't even looking at me.
Wow.
And she's like getting all of this heat. And then that's when she stopped them. And then she looked at me and she was like, is this what happened? And I was like, no. So that's the psychotic story.
Oh gosh.
But to move forward, is there a story that you can think of from when you were young that's just, I don't know, a little toxic or a little endearing toxic, or something with animals or just anything?
Ooh. Why do I always think of the saddest things, man? Morbid, yeah. This is a morbid story. Sorry, guys. But you mentioned animals, and growing up, we had so many dogs at home, which is probably why I don't really enjoy them now. Not only because I was bit when I was a child, and I don't remember that story, but I do think it traumatized me porque me daban mucho miedo los perros. Even los de nosotras. Pero while growing up, I think we must have gotten like 10 dogs. O sea, maybe menos. I
mean, pero en México no es como aquí, ¿verdad? Que tienes que pagar $3,000 por un perro.
Oh, no, these were dogs that, se mira bonito, let's bring him. You know? It was like, you know, like, no sé, el perro de la vecina, la female dog de la vecina, tuvo perritos. Okay. Te regaló 2, you know. It was kind of like that. Okay, it was kind of like that. Pero I do remember that 2 occasions. Teníamos un perro que le decíamos el Chucky. El Chucky. Era bravísimo. Malo. Solo a nosotros nos quería, pero a todo el mundo le ladraba. He bit people. He would bite other dogs. Like, todo el mundo ahí en nuestro neighborhood wanted our dog dead.
What was the breed?
Era chafita, pero era a bulldog combined con otro perro. Pero perdón por lo que voy a decir, pero era maldito. O sea, he was vicious. Solo a nosotros nos quería. Solo a nosotros, Chucky, qué bueno. Por eso le pusimos el Chucky, porque era malo. Entonces,
¿Qué quiere decir el Chucky?
Pues Chucky. Nomás Chucky, pues, porque es en español. Anyway, and so, he killed dogs ahí de la neighborhood. You know, neighbors mordía a los vecinos. O sea, era malo. One time we wake up y no lo encontramos porque se salía y era de, ya se salió el Chucky, pero pues ya ni modo, ya al rato regresa. Y ese día no regresó. Siempre regresaba, pero esa noche no regresó. So we wake up, we're walking looking for, I don't know if we were looking for him or if we were on our way out, just on our way out, pero lo encontramos on the corner of the street dead. No lo mataron.
No.
Yeah, no lo mataron. And it was like, man, el Chucky. Pero... Sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm lacking a lot of empathy today. Oh gosh. No, we mourn our dog.
She got ran over.
Pero that was one. And I mean, there was no way to finding out who did it.
Someone
did it.
Lloraste.
Sí, todas mis hermanas, we cried and everything. Pero not long after that, again, era one of those things, we got another dog que le pusimos Hopper.
Short for or?
Hopper.
Just Hopper. Okay.
We named him after the grasshopper from Bugs
Pinocchio.
Life. No, from Bugs Life.
Okay.
Que no ves, en inglés es Hopper.
A grasshopper, yeah.
Pero his name is Hopper, right?
Oh, no me acuerdo la verdad.
I think so, porque por eso le pusimos Hopper. Anyway, entonces, dude, he was still kind of vicious porque también era half bulldog, I think, and half something else. Pero estaba bonito este perro. El otro se miraba maldito. Este también, pero he was kinder in some senses. He was more playful. You know, he was really, really nice. He died a couple years ago. Pero he was a nice dog. He was a really nice dog. Y a ese sí lo cuidamos very dearly. Like, very, very dearly.
Ese sí lo cuidamos.
Bueno, al otro también, pero dude, like, a veces se peleaba y era, like, we would have to...
Let it take its course.
Yes, porque no te puedes meter en una pelea de perros. O sea, vas a salir lastimado. Entonces era, like, ni modo, you know, like, sorry. And we would have to watch him kill another dog. And, you know, I know it sounds bad, pero that's the reality of kids in Mexico.
Okay.
Anyway, and so that was one. And Hopper todavía se peleaba y mordía a otros perros y así, pero he never attacked people. And Chucky did. He did.
Okay.
Anyway, the other dog que me acuerdo, morbid story también, but this one is really morbid. Se nos murió el perro. I won't say details, pero se nos murió el perro. And so, but we didn't know que se nos murió el perro until it started smelling.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And I remember looking at the body. That was my first time seeing
a carcass.
Seeing a carcass. I think till this day me acuerdo y it's disgusting. It was disgusting. Like, you know, flies, bugs. It was just, I mean, deja ya del smell porque the smell was bad. It was seeing the dog, you know, y todo eso. And that was a childhood memory que obviously todavía me acuerdo, pero que sí dije yo, oh my God, why do we have so many dogs when we obviously can take care of them, you know? And so I do think as a child, it was one of those things that, ni modo, you know, things happen, and maybe that's why I am the way that I am. Because it's just like, move on to the next dog, you know, and after that, within 2 weeks, alguien más nos había dado otro perro y ya teníamos otro. So, I mean, Hopper nos duró for years y lo amamos y todo eso, pero between him y cuando nos fuimos de México, we had other dogs. Y sí los queríamos y los cuidábamos, pero Hopper fue el único que nos duró. Hubo otros perros que decíamos, we can't take care of another dog because we were really, really poor.
Yeah.
We can't, like, feed 3 more dogs, so we need to get rid of them. Y los íbamos y los dejábamos a otra familia, o, you know, or en este caso de este perrito se nos murió. And so, not fault of anyone. It's just not si nosotros no teníamos para comer, ¿qué les íbamos a dar a los perros?
Right.
You know, so it was one of those things. It was a byproduct of poverty. And so now you're feeling bad when a couple minutes ago I was like, se nos murió el perro, you know, but yeah, I think those are my two stories with animals that I was just, man. Cats, we tried it once. Those cats were vicious. Nos arañaban. I mean, they were tiny little kittens. Y they were vicious. We had to give them away. We're like, we can't take care of cats on top
cats me dan miedo.
on top of the dogs. Y ya estaban chiquitos y tantito las agarrabas y te arañaban. And we're like, oh, no, thank you, bye. No. So we gave them to someone. Birds we never had. Fishes we had by the dozens.
Fishes.
Yeah, fishes. After school estaba el señor que vendía pescaditos y tortugas. Yo quiero uno. Lo agarramos, llegamos a la casa, ya no estaba. You know,
¿Por qué?
Porque se nos moría, como nos la daban en bolsitas.
He would shake it.
We would shake it y se nos morían. And so así nos pasaban varias veces with the
Pero se morían porque...
and once uno de los gatos se comió un
natural
fish.
Causes.
Poverty. Byproduct of poverty. No había para darles a los pescados.
But you wouldn't, like, you weren't killing the fishes.
Well, first of all, mira, Kelly y yo crecimos, podríamos decirlo, solas, porque mi mamá pues le tocaba trabajar.
Right.
Entonces, Kelly sabía as much as I knew.
Oh.
Lo que yo le decía, eso era lo que ella sabía. Yo no sabía que you couldn't shake the bags. So, haz de cuenta que era así de que, ¿quieres un pececito? No, pues que sí. ¿Qué ten? Y Kelly was like, ¡ay, qué bonito está! Y yo también, ¡ay, sí es cierto! Llegábamos a la casa and it was like, oh my God, why are they dead? Like, y decíamos, es que eran chafas. Como se los compramos al señor de la esquina. And so, that was our explanation as to why they would die.
Okay,
and then there were those times where, no sé, a lo mejor we didn't shook the bag that time, or we did, pero not so much. Y llegaban vivos, y sí nos duraban 2-3 semanas, pero igual, cuando tú no tienes para comer, ¿qué le das de comer al gato, o al perro, o al pez? We didn't have anything, se nos morían porque no teníamos para darles de comer. And so, o sea...
They would just die.
They would just die, yeah. Y una vez sí se lo comió un gato. Yeah. But,
para no morirse de...
Pues pobre gato también, yeah. So that's all I can tell you about animals. I mean, in El Rancho, I had more other stories, pero those were very short-lived stories, you know.
My experiences with animals, when I was young, I've made up my... I think I've made amends with the animal kingdom.
Okay.
Maybe this is kind of a psychotic thing too. So I was maybe 4 years old, but I remember I would do this. We would always get goldfishes from Walmart. They were 10 cents.
Oh, okay.
And we could afford it, obviously. So my mom would buy like 5, for 50 cents, or sometimes 10. And we would buy a little tank y todo. And we would have this tank on top of this piano that we had in the house. And every time we bought fishes, I was always excited. I was always like happy to have these fishes. So I don't know why I did what I did. But the point is that I think my adult brain explains this as I wanted to interact with them and I couldn't because they were in water.
Oh, okay. Yeah, as a 4-year-old, yeah.
So as a 4-year-old, I would take them out of the tank. Mm-hmm. That part makes sense.
Yeah.
But then I would go and put them on top of the piano and they would jump. And then at some point they would stop jumping. And I would go... I don't know if I was thinking like if I hit them...
To the piano or to the fish? To the fish? Oh.
To the fish on top of the piano.
I thought you were hitting the teclas, like you were hitting the keys.
No. The piano's closed. I would put them on the piano, and I would I would see them jump, and I would touch them, and I would see them jump, and then when they would stop jumping, I would hit them.
Like, hey, wake up.
I think that's what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
And then they would stop, and I would throw them back in, and I would wait. I'm assuming to see them swim, and then nothing would happen, and so I'd get bored and I'd do something else. And my mom would always be like, oh my God, same thing. Los pescados de Walmart, like, they don't survive. And every time, I would say, at some point she stopped buying them, but we would go frequently that she would be like, okay, yeah, let's hope this like batch is lasts long. But I told this to them later. They didn't know why they were dying. It was me. I was killing them, but I didn't know the concept of killing yet. I think I was just trying to play with them. Now, my second animal story involves a little birdie called Angel. And he was my sister's bird. He was a parakeet, and he was the best bird. I don't know why. Well, and so he was so good. He'd give you kisses, and he would be on your shoulder, and he would fly in the house, and he'd go into our little cabinets and come out. I mean, he was the best bird. My sister had a little like cage for him in her room. She loved Angel with all of her heart, and she would never let me hold him because she's like, no, you don't know how to hold him. And I was still maybe 5 or 6 at this point. And I always wanted to like hold Angel, but I couldn't. And sometimes he would land on my shoulder, but most of the time he would always go to Annie. Always.
Pues sí, porque she was the owner.
She was the owner. And on one occasion, I don't remember her being in the house. I don't remember anybody being in the house. I just remember my heart beating, and I went into her room where I wasn't allowed. And I see the cage, and I see Angel, and I open the little door, and I go in, and I grab him. And I grab him like this, and I just go. And I see that, like a plush toy, you just see it go, oh, like its little eyes and mouth and tongue like kind of popped out.
No puedo. Oh my God.
And I think that kind of freaked me out because I just I went and I put him back in. And you just see the bird go. And I heard this like squawk that he made, just just like that. And I got scared. So I closed the little gate and I ran out, and I didn't say anything. And my sister at some point got home, and I just hear, like, I'm in my room and just like worried of like, I haven't gone in there. I don't know how he's doing. And I don't know what she's going to see. So she gets to the house and she screams, Mom, help me, something's happening to Angel. And so we all rush into the room, and I'm just there. And she has him on her hand, and he's just
dead. Oh, he's still breathing.
He's breathing.
Oh.
And he survived for another, I want to say like 3 months. And he had his little neck kind of broken. And I never said anything. I never told my sister. We got 2 more parakeets because we were like, maybe he's like sad
lonely
because he just has his head like this.
Ay, no puedo.
Maybe he's depressed. We need to get him some friends. But those two parakeets were like the hell for him because they were always fighting, those 2 little parakeets. And so the last 3 months of his life, he lived in a cage with other birds that were just always fighting. And then one day, se murió. And my sister cried and cried. She must have been 15.
Ay, Dios mío.
She cried with like all of the sentimiento in her heart of like, I will never have a bird like him. I did not tell her the truth about what happened to Angel until I was maybe 14 or 15. It was years that like one time she brought it up. She even like took a picture of him and she wrote about it in her diary. I remember that she was just like, like this poem almost of like how much he meant to her and how she didn't understand like why this happened.
God, why you took him?
Yeah, and then I was like, Annie, I know it's been years, but I need to tell you the truth. I squeezed little Angel. She was just like, what do you mean? And I told her the whole story. She's like, get out of my room. Like, get out of my sight. Like, and she had to like have this whole grieving moment all over again of like all this time the murderer was under this roof, And again, like those 2 like stories regarding animals are very like early memories. I don't know why I had a little like killing streak. Like, I don't understand.
This is pre-saved Kes. This is
pre-saved Kes. But like now, I love Stella, you know, like I love my dog, you know, she's healthy and happy and alive, you know, but early 5, 6 year old Kez had those two experiences and I killed.
In your defense and in my defense as well, I think a lot of kids have, because we don't know, we have psychotic tendencies with dogs and animals, you know? I mean, how many stories you haven't heard of kids that get bitten porque le agarraron la cola al perro o porque le están agarrando la oreja al perro? I think it's one of those things where you're curious about the world.
You don't know what's going to happen.
Especially with the fish story. You know, you're curious of like, how is this thing alive? What is going on, you know? And like a kid, you moved on to something else.
Yeah.
You know, cuando se moría, oh, okay, stop breathing, bye. You know, what else is there? So however, I do think that there are kids out there, my nephew is one of those, that they're very sensitive when it comes to animals. It's almost like they have a connection with animals. And very, very early on, they're very like, no, que nada le pase, que, you know, and hay otros que it's just like, oh, se murió, you know, move on. So, guys, for the record, for all of you that might think, oh my God, animal, ¿cómo se dice? Cruelty, and, you know, let's call
animal services.
What is it? PETA, or ¿cómo se llama?
I think it is PETA.
You know, and whatever. We were children.
This
is pre-saved Kes and pre-saved Lula. We're not those people anymore. Jinxed. However.
But, you know, I think I would also like to say that it's important to bring awareness to these issues, because you might have a psychotic child in your home and you just don't know it. You know, you got to watch what they're doing. You know, these are things that I have seen within my own nephews of like, they did this and they did that. And like, oh, I did something similar, you know, compulsive lying. I've seen that in my nephews. And so, you know, let's just have grace.
Yes.
For one another.
Bottom line, let's have grace. You know, if you see a child do something, remember you could have done it too. Hey, you know, but
maybe. But speaking on poverty.
Oh, okay.
What were some of the things that you could say was like the poorest thing about you growing up? Or that you remember that now, if you were in the situation, you're like, no, like I would not be in those conditions if I could help it.
Okay. Well, there's so many, pero las que te puedo decir que marcaron mi vida, o que me acuerdo mucho, and I remember them almost with like happiness, with like a fluttering feeling. Pues mi mamá intentaba dejarnos comida.
Okay.
Pero it wasn't always successful. It wasn't always, you know, I mean, she was wearing so many hats at that time. And, you know, and so a veces no había comida en la casa. Mm-hmm. Entonces Kelly and I, o había comida, siempre había fruta. Pero Kelly y yo, pues, you know, it was like, no, we want something else. And so what we would do is that we would turn the couch where my mom would get every night y se sentaba en ese couch a relajarse, a ver la tele or whatever. We would turn that couch upside down para que se le cayeran todas las monedas. That we knew que se le cayeran a mi mamá del pantalón o de la falda, whatever. And, you know, there were days where nos encontrábamos 10 pesos. I mean, there were days where it was like, oh my God, 50 pesos. What can we do with 50 pesos? And
do you think she would do it on purpose?
You know what? I don't know. I don't think so, porque luego a veces ella nos dejaba dinero para la escuela to buy lunch in school. Like, for example, those days cuando no nos dejaba comida, okay, here's your money para que te compres algo en la nochera. Pero anyway, a veces, o sea, cuando eres pobre, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, pero cuando eres pobre tienes hambre todo el tiempo. Quieres comer todo. Aunque ya hayas comido, you're looking. Entonces ya habíamos comido en la escuela, pero llegábamos con hambre a la casa y entonces ya sabíamos, okay, vamos a buscar en el couch. Y nos encontrábamos dinero y todo eso, y nos íbamos a comprar Cheetos or Cheetos. Dude, Cheetos, we lived on those. They sustained us for years.
They healed the soul. Almost.
Yes, you know, it's just, man. Y, I mean, there were times when we were lucky que nos pedíamos 20 pesos de chetos. And it was like, oh my God, you know. probably Kelly and I teníamos lombrices because that's all we would eat, you know, chetos and like paletas payaso. I mean, we were rich cuando nos compramos una paleta payaso. It's like, oh my God, we have enough money for one paleta payaso para las dos.
Oh, I see.
So I think that's one of the things we did that made us realize we're poor.
We're poor, yeah.
We're poor and we have to scrounge en el couch para ver qué nos encontramos. Y la otra, que it was kind of like a reality check of like, oh, soy pobre. We had some friends que vivían around the corner que nuestra casa en México estaba huge.
Wow.
Which is why people thought we were
well
off. It was 3 floors. I mean, cada quien tenía su propio cuarto. We have 2 living rooms. We have a huge kitchen. I mean, estaba grandísima. Pero you would go in there y estaba empty.
Oh, bare.
We didn't have much. You know, sí teníamos couches y teníamos a huge librero where we had the TV. Pero it was bad. It was bad. You know, the toilet wouldn't work half of the time. No teníamos agua sometimes. So, you know, anyway. So, anyway, before we get Salvi right here. We had these friends que vivían around the corner y no vivían, su casa de ellas estaba más chiquita que la de nosotros. Pero when you would go in, it was like, oh my God, tenían todo en los walls. Nosotros no teníamos nada en los walls.
Frames, nothing.
Nada. De hecho, teníamos cosas que, like, our decoration on our walls was the watermarks when it would rain. Que se estaba echando a perder the wall. That was our decoration of our wall.
That gave it a little color.
Yes. And it's sort of like a design también. And so, pero our friend's house, I mean, they had family pictures and they had, at least for us, that meant poverty. That was the difference between us and them. They had family pictures. You had to have money to go to a studio to take those pictures. True. They had chandeliers. You know,
I mean, tiempo, yeah.
They had, I mean, my friend had her own bed. Kelly and I slept with my mom, even though había cuartos para todos. Pero Kelly and I slept with my mom hasta que yo tenía como 11 años. Because, yes, there were a lot of rooms in the house, pero no teníamos enough money to buy couches.
Oh, okay. Or beds.
Or beds, you know. And so, anyway, pero my friend's house, todo el cuarto era pink y Hello Kitty y todo ella lo que ella quería y todo eso. The biggest thing for me was, and I don't know if this is poverty or lack of a mother figure, but mi mamá nos enseñó a lavar when we were very young. Mm-hmm. Y ellas no sabían lavar. Ellas usaban the laundry machine.
Oh, they had a machine?
They had a machine. We learned how to wash by hand.
With a rock?
En el, ¿cómo le dicen?
Esa pala.
Esa cosa, Ay, no, se me está olvidando el nombre, pero en el lavadero. Y mi mamá nos enseñó when we were very young. And so, mi mamá obviously nos enseñó in the way of like, when I'm not here, you can do it for you, porque I'm not going to be here every time. So, my mom did it out of like, you need to be self-sufficient. Now, we weren't. We were lazy. And so, yes, at times nos poníamos las calcetas de un mes. You know? Ya se paraban solas las pobres. And so my friend, I go in there y I don't know why, she's showing us, porque Kelly was with me, she's showing us her closet y todo eso. And I'm gravitating to her clean socks. I'm thinking, oh my God, these are so many clean socks. Y en mi head, lo único que estoy pensando es, yo nada más tengo las azules y las blancas. That's it. That's all I have. And I'm looking at Kelly like we're both thinking the same thing. We only have the blue ones and the white ones. And my friend had 3 pairs of shoes, calcetas que tenían moñitos, azules, blancas, todas tenían moñitos o a design o todo eso. And Kelly and I had the cheapest ones, only blue and white, and las white not so white, porque pues no las lavábamos. And that's when I thinking, I might live in the biggest house in the neighborhood, but she's rich. I'm poor. Yo, like, okay, yo lavo mis calcetas, pero no tengo 10 pairs, you know? And, I mean, y te puedo decir, con otra ropa era igual. O sea, me enseñó su closet y vestidos y yo nada más. Y me decía, estos, ¿cómo me acuerdo que me dijo, estos vestidos como que diciendo, like, whatever, you know?
Like them.
And I'm thinking, para mí es fiesta cuando mi mamá nos compra un vestido para ir a la iglesia. Para mí es like, you know, y todo eso. Y mi mamá luego no nos los compraba nuevos, no los compraba de segunda mano, en unas pacas, you know? And so, and that's when I realized other people buy new things. I buy used things, you know? Other people have multiple pairs of socks. I only have 2.
Crusty ones
And smelly ones. And I'm looking at Kelly like we both realized how poor we were, I guess, or how privileged some other people were. Pero así como nosotros we were poor, había gente más pobre todavía. Y así como la muchacha, en mi escuela había una niña que, ¿cómo me acuerdo? Llevaba Converse de different colors. And to me, that was like, oh my God.
She's rich.
She's rich. How can you have Converse de different colors? Yo me acuerdo que mi mamá me compró, y nosotros nada más teníamos 3 pairs of shoes. Los de la escuela, los de la church y tennis shoes.
Para donde quiera.
Si los tennis shoes se te perdían, good luck. Te aguantas, you know? Si se te ensuciaban o lo que sea, put up with it. Hasta que te llegue los Reyes Magos or something. Pero this girl tenía purple ones, tenía pink ones, tenía, you know, yellow ones, white ones, black ones, the classic ones. Y me caía tan mal.
Is that why you now have shoes of every color?
Yes, poverty complex. Yes, inferiority.
Is that why you never say no to food? I'm telling you, man. Like,
but I mean, yes. A lot of things come from poverty. Yes, a lot of things that I have now come because I felt that pobreza. Y ahorita, pues, you know, lo que me pongan en la mesa me lo como. So yes. What about for you?
I think for me, I never felt so much that we didn't have food. I don't think my mom ever showed us the reality of how little she had for food. So I never experienced that, like, no tenemos para comer. Que vamos a comer frijoles y esto es lo que vamos a comer. Or we're going to eat canned food, you know, which I really love doing in the middle of the night. I would just like eating, you know, a can of corn, take out the water, leave it in there, throw in a little bit of mayonesa y me lo comía a las 3 de la mañana. Then I go back to bed. I would do this.
Well, hold on. Before you continue, I would like to make a parenthesis that's my perception as a child. Who knows? There might have been food todo el tiempo, pero como niño, tú dices, no quiero, y me enfoco en lo que no hay.
True.
Y ya le digo, no, pues es que no teníamos para comer. Porque I'm pretty sure my mom would listen to this and be like, no, siempre había algo en la comida, aunque sea frijoles. And so it could have been my perception too. Go ahead.
I think for me, where I saw the poverty, and I didn't realize that until I was older, was, for example, the safety issue in where we lived. So I grew up in the projects. I grew up in a very gang-affiliated location. And I remember I didn't come to know the difference until I was maybe in high school.
Oh.
Because the people that I went to school with in elementary, all of those kids were from the projects, the majority of those kids. If you had one kid that probably wasn't from that location, it was rare. But todos, I'm telling you, I went to a school that was like Mexican, American heritage, Spanish speaking. The teachers would speak to you in Spanish, you know, todo allí. And so, you know, I was in a location that the closest gang was the Colonia Chiques, you know, and so there was always a recurring occurrence of, you know, helicopter raids, you know, searching for someone. I remember, you know, multiple times, you know, people that were trying to like flee the police. The way that our backyards were is that the fences were, so the houses are like this in a sense. And then in the backyards, there's just a fence that divides through.
Okay.
And through your little squares. But you could literally get on those fences and jump on the next one. It's a clear metal.
It's easy to move from one house to another.
And a lot of the times the kids there, we would just jump to each other's houses. We would just go through the fences and just get to someone else's like backyard. We would do that, all the time. And so that was a great escape route for a lot of like gang members that were trying to get away from the police. They would just jump to someone's backyard, and then they would keep going to all the way till they got to the end, until they got to their route, right? That was something that was a rapid occurrence, or a recurring occurrence. Another thing, sirens, police sirens and bocinas, hey, we're gonna come and get you, stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
That was recurring. Like I never grew up with fear of like we're not in a safe.
Because that was a norm.
It was a norm, even though Joel grew up in the projects I'm in, when I tell him these things, he was like, what do you mean? Like that was a norm, that's why to me nowadays, I'm like, okay, like this isn't nothing, And so that was one. Another thing that I would remember is sandbags. So whenever it would rain in where we used to live, la agua se metía por las puertas. And so the city would drop off sandbags in all of the houses so that you could prevent from the water to get into your home. And so we literally would have sandbags all over, like every main entrance, we would have sandbags. And I remember que se metía el agua y a veces se metían estos gusanitos. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but there's a specific black worm that would like appear whenever it would rain a lot. And I remember I would always see that.
There are no tadpoles?
I don't think
Before they become ranas.
No.
Oh, okay,
no.
okay.
They're just gusanos. And I remember that was something I would always like. That was a norm to me of like, it rained a lot, so by default we're gonna see gusanos, and I would pick them up and I would just throw them outside, And our house was so cold, like freezing. Like we would have to have 4-5 cobijas de las de esas de San Miguel, San Marcos,
mexicanas,
and we would like with all the tigers, And we would like be under there, and todas nosotras like with my mom and my dad just trying to keep warm. But in the house there was one heater in the hallway, and when you would turn it on, it wouldn't heat up the whole house. The only area it would heat up was just whatever it's standing in front of there. So that wall was hot, but the house isn't hot. So what we would do is that we would go to the heater. We would stand there for like however long we could bear the heat, run to the bed, and then we would lay on our backs just feeling the heat as it kind of like tried to surround us. So that was like our way of trying to keep warm, Entonces, like, that to me, it's like, I think back at that and I'm like, oh my gosh, like how difficult, now obviously as an adult, and I see, for example, like here, if water would come through, my husband being a plumber, he'd be like, no, the foundation's not done right. They didn't do this properly. I got to fix it, whereas for us, it's like, it is what it is. Your house is just made that way. But the main thing that I found out that was like, I was poor, was growing up in the school. Everyone in the school got free reduced lunch because they were all poor. And we would look at those few kids that brought lunch as weird. We would be like, why did they bring lunch? Like, and they would bring their fruit and their like, todo lo que traían, we would just look at them like, okay. Bougie. And we're over here eating our chocolate milk and our, packaged taquitos that were frozen, living life. Like, man, that sucks. Like if they want to, get lunch, they have to pay. So they bring their lunches. And I remember telling this story to my nephew years ago. I think I was like, I don't know how old I was. And I remember him telling me like, you got free reduced lunch? And I was like, yes, we all did. And he's like, free reduced lunch is for the poor kids. All of the kids bring their own lunches. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, everyone brings their own lunch. Like only the kids that they can't afford it, they get free reduced lunch. And he's like, that's why I take my lunch. And I was like, what? Like free reduced lunch is for the poor kids? Like, what are you talking about? And that was another thing that like I learned.
Right,
like,
yeah.
Like, no podíamos. Like, we couldn't afford it. And so we were under WIC, you know, when you're under WIC or food stamps. Back then, they used to be like almost like a little book. I don't know if you ever experienced that, but it was like colored, like it looked like almost like colored money. But at first they let you buy whatever you wanted, and I think it was like $250. But at some point they changed their regulations and they only allowed you to get certain types
things,
of food.
yeah.
So it was just Kix. It was just like this block yellow cheese. It was like only certain things you could buy that was allowed. Because before, my mom would get us like whatever we wanted, you know, like the Oreos, you know, the Fruity Pebbles or whatever. But when they changed that regulation, it was just Kix. And to this day, I enjoy Kix because it brings that like childhood. And my mom's like, ay, ¿por qué? Like, why do you want to eat Kix? Like, it represents like cuando no teníamos dinero. I'm like, I like it. Like, it represents my childhood, you know?
You know, now that you're talking about cereal, I remember that was another way of us finding out, we were really underprivileged. Porque cuando nos vinimos a los Estados Unidos, the amount, I had never seen so many different cereals.
Really?
Never. The amount of different cereals we saw was like, oh my God. And people can have two of different ones. Because back there in Mexico, we were blessed when my mom would spare some change for cornflakes. That was our thing of like, oh my God, we have cornflakes. Oh, we can survive for another week, you know, kind of thing. Pero nos vinimos acá and cornflakes were like, cornflakes?
It's all about Frosted Flakes over here.
Exactly. And chocolate flavors and strawberry flavors. And oh my God, we saw so many colors and so many, you know, different flavors. And we're like, oh my God, this is a promised land. This is amazing. And, you know, you fast forward 20 years or so, and I still enjoy cornflakes. Those are my favorite.
With banana and 1 teaspoon of sugar.
Ooh, glorious.
That's literally, I remember, like, that's how my grandma would make it. She would let me show you how to perfect it. You know, y ahí le echaba los bananas. And you're bougie if you had strawberries, man.
And right now that you're mentioning danger, we lived in a, I wouldn't say dangerous neighborhood, pero Kelly and I would walk to school and come back walking from school. And it was like a 30-minute walk. And I remember this one time, this guy followed us. And I'm not sure if I've shared it in the podcast.
I don't remember. So.
Anyway. And so, you know, he was, we knew him because he was always just walking around. He wasn't all right in his head. But this time he followed us. And I was just learning because my mom would sometimes pick us up, or sometimes my sisters would be at home. But I don't know what happened I think she got busier and my sister started going to like higher education or something, no sé. Pero el chiste es que mi mamá made me learn how to open the door. And I was still learning how to open it. And this guy is following us, and I'm thinking, oh my God, nos está siguiendo. And sure enough, we would move one way y ahí iba, y íbamos por otra calle y ahí estaba. And so I'm thinking, ¿qué voy a hacer? Like, Kelly está conmigo. I was like 8, 9, and Kelly was 2 years younger. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm freaking out porque I'm thinking, I still don't know how to open it correctly. Like, it jams y todo eso. Y I'm thinking, ¿qué hago si se nos acerca? Y Kelly y todo esto. And I turned to look at Kelly y le digo, corre. And we booked it. And this guy, he didn't run, but he started walking faster. And we're like, you know, corre. We get there. I'm trying to open it. And sure enough, because I'm nervous, because the door is faulty, I'm like, oh my God, it doesn't open. And I'm like freaking out because I'm putting Kelly in front of me. And I'm like, And this guy is there. And you know that feeling when you feel someone is following you and they're about to grab you? I feel it all the time. And I'm like, oh my God. It finally opens. I push Kelly, I put myself, and I'm there, and I'm like, oh my God, we're fine, we're good. And I remember I left the keys on the thing. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I have to open it and you know, take them out, porque se atoraba.
Yeah.
And now I'm freaking out porque I'm thinking, ¿qué hago si abro y este hombre está ahí y now he wants to come in? Pero también si dejo ahí las llaves, he might try to come in. So I'm like, oh my God. Y I'm praying. I remember praying, Dios ayúdame, Dios ayúdanos y protégenos y protégenos. I opened the door and he's gone. And I'm like, oh my God. Ya quito la llave y todo eso. And I think I remember telling my mom about it porque after that, she made it an effort to pick us up more often.
Oh, I see.
More often. One of the reasons why she wouldn't pick us up is porque there was a time where we wouldn't have a car. And so she would have to go to use a public transportation to work and from wherever she was. And so it would take time, you know, to use the public transportation. So when she would pick us up era cuando ya tenía un carro disponible or así. And I remember telling that story as a fun story, sort of like, oh my God, it was so, you know, the adrenaline, todo eso to my friends when I came to the US. And I remember all of them looking at me like, what the heck? That was not a fun story. Yeah. Like, why are you laughing? You know? And I'm like, oh, I thought it was exciting. You know, yes, of course I was afraid when it happened. Right. Pero after the fact, me acordaba y nos acordábamos con Kelly y nos da risa. Maybe dark humor, obviously, you know, daddy issues. But nos da risa porque it's like, for all we, you know, el hombre, I mean, nos da risa porque nos ponemos a pensar, this guy was shorter than me. We could have outsmarted him. We could have run to the neighbors. I mean, there were so many other things that we could have done, pero te das cuenta que when you're scared, you're devoid of any logical thought. Right. And so nos da risa y decimos, ay, pues, you know, estuvo fun, or estuvo funny, or ¿te acuerdas tu cara? Oh my God, me acuerdo de tu cara y te acuerdas de, you know, todo eso. And so, pero.
That's crazy. Oh my gosh. Like, because it's funny how you were like now saying like, oh, he was like shorter and, you know, we could have outsmarted him or something. He didn't look as maybe, you know,
like,
because as you were telling the story, I'm like, oh, I'm thinking
no,
6 feet, trench coat, evil looking.
Era un hombre, o sea, te daba miedo porque sabías que algo estaba mal en su mente, porque caminaba raro, hablaba así. Anyway, and so como niñas, tú puedes sentir there's something not good
off about this
there's something odd about this person, so stay away, ¿verdad? Pero ya de adulto te das, as I was telling this story to my friends at the time, and I was telling it like sort of like, oh my God, that was funny. Lo hice porque me acordé de que el guy era shorter than me. Yo estaba que like 4 something, you know, and very thin, así delgadito. Sucio, vivía en la calle, o sea, sí tenía un trench coat, eso sí, okay. Pero, o sea, I feel que had I not been that scared, I would have thought of a different way to
get away.
Y me acuerdo, y también se me hizo chistoso porque Kelly, she did realize that something was off, pero no fue hasta que le dije, corre, that she was like, okay. You know, and that whole situation of us running, yes, it sounds scary.
But it built it up.
Pero it was, we thought about it y nos daba risa. Decíamos, dude, ¿te acuerdas de tu cara? Y, ay, sí, tu cara de mensa y así, cosas así, ¿no?
Yeah.
Y maybe I managed to turn it around and see it in a positive
coping
mechanism, dark humor. And so when I was telling this to my US friends, they were like, no, I'm not laughing.
I don't see the humor.
Yeah,
I can't laugh at that.
Yeah. And I was cracking up. I was like, oh my God, you know? But I mean, yes, that might have, I do think it had to do with poverty porque vivíamos en un neighborhood, no pobre, pero sí, había más gente como nosotras que vivían peor que nosotras. Que me acuerdo mucho de esta niña, and I know it's taking a while, guys, pero me acuerdo mucho de esta niña que, dude, güerita. Y ya sabes cómo somos de colorist, ¿verdad?
Yes.
Ya porque está güerita, ya. Hermosa, bonita, ya todo, ¿no? Pero esta niña estaba güerita, bonita, sí estaba muy bonita, ojos de color, I think eran azules. But she always smelled like pee. Always. Nadie se le juntaba porque olía a pipí. Y me acuerdo que yo sentía feo y Kelly and I nos hicimos amiga de ella. Y iba en mi classroom. And this is 5th grade, I think. Y, you know, like, it was, o sea, sí lo puedo decir ahorita. Nosotros éramos pobres y sí, nuestras calcetas apestaban, pero we never smelled like pee.
You took a shower.
We would take a shower, so at least my mom was very like, no, báñense y no sean cochinas y esto y aquello, ¿verdad? En las calcetas eso, ¿verdad? Pero anyway, pero esta muchacha todo el tiempo olía a pipí, todo el tiempo. Y me acuerdo una vez que I went after her, estábamos en el playground, and she was going up the slide, and I was behind her, and I was like, oh, God. What?
Aww.
That's when I realized, oh my God, ¿se habrá hecho del baño? You know, I thought, sí, a lo mejor se hizo pipí. Y no dije nada, pero then after that, it was a constant thing of like, oh no, she smells like this is her. Y me acuerdo que we became friends. Tenía piojos la muchacha también, nos dio piojos a nosotras también, pero that didn't stop us from hanging out with her. Una vez nos invitó a su casa. Sure enough, the conditions she was living in, I was like, esto no es posible.
You literally saw the both
I saw the both streams of like, okay, yo estaré pobre y no tendré 20 calcetas, pero esta muchacha estaba peor. O sea, eran un cuartito, yo creo, como de este tamaño. Vivía con una abuelita que también parecía que la abuelita estaba mal, como que estaba enferma. Vivía con ella y no sé quién más, pero esa vez que nosotros fuimos, nada más estuvimos ahí like briefly, porque el olor a pipí y a popó era tan fuerte que Kelly and I were looking at each other like,
you can't.
We need to leave, like it's just too much. Y ella estaba bien. La niña estaba como que that was her norm, you know, and I remember, esa fue la primera vez que yo dije, pero she looks the way she looks. ¿Dónde está el problema, you know? Like, se me hacía impresionante eso. Y luego me acordaba de mis amigas que vivían a couple blocks from there, que no vivían en la casa más grande, pero todo el tiempo bien peinaditas, ropa limpia, ropa nueva, diferentes zapatos. Y me miraba a mí y decía, bueno, pero no estamos tan mal porque nosotros no olemos ¿no? Or like, y lo que yo pienso que había problemas en esa casa porque esta niña was very quiet. Like she was very quiet, very timid, very introverted, very like, I mean, era de milagro que nos juntábamos con ellas porque no hablaba. Le decíamos, ¿quieres jugar? Y decía very minimal things like, oh, ya me voy a casa. Okay, vamos. Pero it was very gnarly. Y esa vez que fuimos a su casa, no aguantamos. Le dijimos, ya nos tenemos que ir a la casa. Oh, ok, está bien, bye. Y ya nos fuimos. Pero ella, como que ella nunca se dio cuenta de que she smelled.
Was it just her grandma living there?
Ese día nada más vimos a su grandma. Y era con temor de que se oiga feo, pero era como una bolita nada más ahí en the corner.
¿Qué?
La abuelita.
¿Como una bolita?
O sea, era un bultito. Tiny. Era un bultito ahí en the corner. Pensábamos que era ropa. When we got there.
I need to stop right there.
Sorry, guys.
Dude, you had me close to tears about this kid. And now you're like, una bolita de ropa, por favor.
Dark humor. I'm sorry, guys. That's the way I cope with trauma. It's just, when we got there, estaba en la corner, and so we didn't know what it was. No fue hasta que ella dijo, ya llegué, abuelita, que we're like, oh, es la abuelita. And then... And then she came out of her cocoon, and we're like, oh, okay. We're like, oh, okay.
We need to wrap this up, man. We need to wrap this up.
Before I get into much trouble. Guys, just, I don't know, you probably have noticed, I cope with my trauma with dark humor.
Yes.
Might not be to your taste, and I'm sorry, I'll get better at that. But it's always good to give it a twist to things, you know, to find the good in everything.
To find the bright side.
Yes, to find the bright side. But anyway, long story short, I had two perspectives, and that gave me sort of like, I'm good. I might not be my friend con 20 calcetas, pero I'm not there, you know?
True.
And I need to be thankful for what I have. And, you know, it worked out. I enjoyed my childhood dentro de lo que cabe, porque pues obviamente también había cosas que no, pero it was okay.
See,
Yeah.
I think we came out okay.
Or you tell us. Let us know in the comment section if you think
Kez is psychotic.
if you think Kes still showcases psychotic tendencies, or which, by the way, it's been researched and proven that we all have some psychiatric tendencies. You know, we all have something within us that is just not quite right.
Woo-hoo.
You know, and they're just tendencies. Doesn't mean that that's our proclivity. It's just a tendency. But anyway, let us know in the comment section if you think that, you know, those stories are still.
Which one was your favorite story? And share a story.
Yes, share a story. Share something that, you know, hey, when did you realize you were poor? If you were poor. When did you realize that you were rich or well off or better off than most, you know? And
Are you still poor?
And are you still rich?
Or are you coping? It's not funny. Poverty's not funny.
And maybe since we're talking about coping mechanisms, how do you deal with you know, what are your coping mechanisms? I know for me it's dark humor. I'm sorry, guys. I'll try to get better, but it's just gives me life. But, you know, so praying maybe should be my coping mechanism.
Check us out on all our platforms. We are on YouTube, Spotify, and Instagram. And otherwise, we will see you next time.
Bye.